YouTube. In honor of the sequel that's coming out, I know the release date keeps changing, but officially now I'm being told it's February 27th, 2015. Barely a month from now, Monsters 2 Dark Continent will be released. And I'm still not even sure the extent of that release date, so I'm definitely going to look at it. I'll probably do a follow-up video on the sequel by itself. However, with that out of the way, in regard to 2014, well behind us now, although I'm sure it's still getting a lot of hype right now and a lot of talk, you know, a lot of people probably still haven't seen it, to this day, but let's go back before Godzilla 2014, back to the directorial debut of Gareth Edwards in Monsters 2010. And it's a movie that has definitely not seen a very wide release. As far as successful, I think it was pretty successful. The movie was made in a budget of less than $1 million, which is pretty much unheard of these days. It was made for, I think, roughly half that, if not a little less, yet it made, supposedly it's made around $4.2 million, which, when you look at it that way, the movie is pretty damn successful. But still probably not very well known. I think few people have even bothered to try to see it, probably, especially in the Godzilla fan community. I was probably one of the few who, once I heard Gareth Edwards was making the movie Godzilla, I decided to see, you know, what's this guy all about? He doesn't have a very big film career. Godzilla 2014 is basically his second film, and I'm looking to see a lot more from him, but Monsters is where it all started for him. And the thing about Monsters is when you watch it, it is pretty much when you watch it, you will see exactly what to expect in Godzilla 2014. I think that's what people, if more people had watched Monsters beforehand, I don't know if it would have deterred them or would have inspired them to go see it. I'm not sure. For me, honestly, it left me a little anxious because, well, let me say this, the tone in Monsters is very similar to Godzilla 2014. And the problem was, at the time, was I was worried about the fact that I was wondering how would that transfer over to a Godzilla movie, which usually does not have this type of tone. Only a few select films in the movies, out of the 28 Japanese films, only a select few of those actually go for the more realistic, grounded, human-based side of the story. Usually, you know, it's a lot more zany and whatnot. And I was wondering if that would transfer over well. But the thing is, seeing Godzilla 2014, it was done pretty damn well. Not completely flawless, but done pretty damn well. And yeah, so let's go over what Monsters did right that carried over to Godzilla 2014. First off, I'm just going to give automatic credit, I'm going to give a lot of credit to Gareth Edwards for this movie. He not only was a director, he was also a cinematographer, production designer, and the visual effects artist. And he helped recruit a lot of the talent that would be in the movie. So with that said, very well done, sir. My kudos to you. And I think, just as a low budget type of film, I think he's a landmark just for that, for making something this entertaining out of it. Now, the basic story, I usually don't cover story at all when it comes to movies because I prefer that people just go see it themselves. But yeah, I guess go over the premise of the movie. The premise is basically that an alien spore has landed in Mexico, and then from there it's begun to spread like wildfire. And the story basically covers our two protagonists trying to get out of the infected zone and across the border into the United States. And yeah, it's a fairly simple story, but what makes it so much a moving and such a gripping movie is the fact that just like Godzilla 2014, its focus is on the human characters, and there's some great shots and some great sets, but the point of these is to set up the human side of the story. You know, it's set in a very disaster-stricken dystopia of a future. You know, and you really see the damage all the fighting has done. But just like Godzilla, the whole point of the destruction here is that destruction has been mainly caused by man himself and not the alien monsters. It's, you know, it's the air raids and all the bombs and all the chemicals that have been dropped that have really torn apart, and just not the environment but also the human cityscape. And people say that one of the main fetishes of Guillermo del Toro's work is, the things in jars, and his fascination with clock gears, the old school clocks. Well, Gareth Edwards' fascination, I suppose, is with gas masks. He did a lot in 2014, and you see that a lot in this movie. This fascination with the gas mask and what it represents. It represents a polluted world, basically. And just like Godzilla 2014, this movie shows like the arrogance of man and the fact that the human side of the story, they're so caught up with their own missions that they don't recognize the reality of the aliens. And the reality is that the aliens are actually peaceful creatures up until they're provoked. Whether it be the thirst for money or the thirst for just containment, it overrides what is really going on, and how different the situation really could be is if the humans had not intervened the way they had. And I think that's the great thing about monsters. It's showing the irony of man's attempt to control things, and their attempts to control things that are ultimately, not only are they disastrous for other human beings, but it's also disastrous just because of how badly it fails. The plans of containment fail epically so. And by the end of the movie, you see that no matter what man does, the infection, I guess as they're calling it, is spreading regardless. It doesn't matter about what borders they set up, what containment there is, how many weapons are brung in, it's never going to be enough. So with that said, I definitely have to give credit to Scoot McNairy and Whitney Abel. Real life couple playing the two main characters, the only characters that are really going to matter for the most part, and they do an incredible job. They play them really lifelike, and definitely not simplistic at all. They're very not your simple cardboard characters for a movie like this. You actually connect to them and you embrace their little story that they're going on. I like this movie because even though you don't see a lot of the monsters that are in the title, which might upset some old school type of fans, I suppose, there's a lot of focus on the damage that's been done, and that's what I like about the darkness of the story. It doesn't shy away from the reality of what happened. The death of innocent human beings and all this, civilians and soldiers alike. And it also shows the beauty of the images, though. It's odd to say, but there's almost beauty in the desolation you see. You see some very great sets, great CGI when there is CGI, but a lot of it, but CGI or not, it just looks fantastic. The jets half sunken in the rivers, decimated buildings, it just looks awesome, and you get this feeling of just like a ghost-like calm, like at any moment, whatever created this ruined landscape could come right out of the blue, and it just could be a massive death all around. And that's what I like about his films. He definitely admires the build-up and the proper setup to make